Chemical. I'm sorry. So sorry. Yeah, so I worked across the domains. I have worked across the life cycles. I've started my career as a programmer. I went on to be a support desk engineer. I went on to be a tester, a UAT architect, you name it, and I have done it. In fact, I always say that I do not have a career path, but I have a career matrix because it's all across the domains and across the roles. Most of my agile experience has been working for APAC customers on behalf of TCS. And as such, I have got a opportunity to work across customers which are very diverse in culture, languages, the way they work. And across all of these programs, whenever I have been working, what I have comes across as one point is that if we have taken enough of effort into writing a clean and a good contract, that sets us up for success. If the contract is good, the contract allows us to operate well within Agile. It speeds up our success. So that's why I today want to talk about how the Agile contracts work. But before we start, can one of you tell me why do we need different contracts for Agile? What is that?
So I can try to answer, Sneha. Is that fine?
Yes, we shall go ahead.
Okay. So the difference between agile and traditional project management is that the scope is somehow open for modifications after every iteration that we have. So I guess the contract can set guidelines, but if it is set in stone, it defeats the purpose of agile. It needs to be tricky writing an agile contract.
So you were pretty right there, Vishal. Anybody else wants to talk about some other aspect? Vishal explained that the scope itself is not very rigid. Our focus is on how do we change. Is there something else that somebody else would like to mention?
Yes, Niyamari. This is Ajay here. So another aspect related to scope itself is the schedule also, because what happens that when we have agile type of projects, which means there is a lot of uncertainty built into it. So we can't have like waterfall method, big bang, like a particular date as go live date or UAT date 6 months down the line or so. It becomes very difficult. So here the challenge is that in contracts we can't have those things baked into the contracts per se, but we can definitely have what could be the sprint cycle and how we are going to work out.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
So
actually, like because I'm from manufacturing, and so we have not as complex as software, like because manufacturing is more tangible products, and like software they are more of a like software. So but we do have this kind of issues, like once the contract has been finalized, then the installation, manufacturing, production, and then installation run, and then handover thing will take almost 1 year, 1.5 years, or sometime even 2 years. So, and down the line, the cost may vary a lot because there are some iterations, okay, on this particular scope of supply, and the cost would be like this, the payment and terms and conditions will be like this, the banking would be engaged in different way. So what happens is, like at the end of the entire cycle, you and there are a lot of changes also, because there are suggestions, like some wrongdoing, some kind of like errors in the production, or some kind of things are missing. So we don't follow agile, but like we have to be really careful in advance, like what may go wrong, and then we have to prepare entire infrastructure of the contract in such a way that things can be absorbed down the line, the errors, all those things.
So what I am hearing from you all is that traditionally when we wrote a contract, we assumed that there was this much amount of work. So scope was fixed by design. Effort was fixed because otherwise a vendor say a TCS or an Infosys or a Wipro or even a manufacturing cannot actually bid. So vendors needed the effort to be fixed, and customers needed that we give them a value by a certain time, and everything was fixed, and we assumed that things will go as we planned, which does not go that way in waterfall also is another story. But in Agile, the premise itself says that our scope changes. So we have inverted the triangle. So now we have to write contracts which will allow us to have something in the effort, fixed effort. When I say fixed effort, at least we need to do something so that we know what is the effort required, because otherwise a vendor cannot bid. On the other hand, a customer is always going to insist that, give me something by X date. So now we have to at least manage some idea of a effort, fixed effort, and a date. So only thing we can vary is scope. And how do we do that is the magic that we are going to talk today about. So I think all of you have been discussing your challenges, that our contracts are very anti-agile today. We are trying to fix everything possible. Scope, cost, time, quality, everything. And then we are saying we are agile. So in a way, if our contract is not agile, we are not giving ourselves space to be agile. So today the change is completely discouraged. There are some 887 levels of approval which you will need if you have to change something. We kind of scare the customer that, if you change, this happens. If you change, cost increases, schedule overrun. Change is discouraged. There is no space for innovation. We have given the scope time constraints so tightly, we have not given any space for innovation. Focus is on effort. What work I have done rather than what value I have generated. Again, the focus here is on effort in the traditional contracts. You call it T&M, fixed bid, but we are budgeting for a certain effort and charging the customer for a certain effort. There is no collaboration. Contracts are written as if these are two fighting parties. That there are so many assumptions, so many legal clauses, but there is really not much of a focus given in the contract to discuss how we will work together. We are trying to start a large program, how we are going to work together, what ways we are going to adjust, what ways we are going to. That is not discussed at all. All the focus is on, if this done, penalties apply. If that done, you will have some punishments given. So we think that we are adversary parties. So how do we remove all of this? What are the key characteristics of an agile contracts? First of all, we need contracts that respect agile. And what does that mean? Make changes easy. Do not make a change as a punishment. Do not scare the customer saying, if you change, there is a cost escalation, schedule is going to slip, don't tell us, you should have these many levels of approval. Make changes easy as a part of your process. Second is ready for the unexpected. The industry landscape is changing so fast. Pandemic has taught us that you cannot assume anything. Only thing you can assume is the unexpected, that the things will change. The third thing, which is interestingly what I have found out, you need to have in a good large scale contract. The third point may not be there for a small project, but when you are working in a large program, the clarity you have changes really a lot across the program. When you start the program, you do not know anything. There is just a black box called program. You just have a vague vision, mission, but you do not know. Then you start working, things start getting clearer and clearer and clearer. And as you come towards the end, you pretty much know what you're going to do. And your contracts needs to be able to put in measures to work differently in each of these phases. We cannot assume that we will work exactly the same when we are in the exploration stage versus when we are trying to send down the program. So these are the three things how we have to absorb in our contracts is what I'm going to talk about it right now. What I will request is if any of you need some other area to be discussed other than these three, we will discuss in the Q&A. But if you have any question on the topic being discussed, you can raise your hand and then we can discuss. Based on the time we have, we can, collaborate our ways of working. So is that okay with everybody? Can you give me the physical thumbs up or, raise your hand digitally so that I know you all are okay with this? All right, thanks. We'll get ahead then. So making changes easy. The best thing what I have learned is that in your typical contract, we have scope and out of scope. What I have learned is I write the scope section in mostly in Agile projects in 3 sections. The scope section has got these 3 sections. Out of scope is anyway there, but even the scope is divided into these 3 sections. First is the must-have feature, your MVPs. Without that, you're not going to get any values. And usually, even at the starting phase of your program, you have some idea of what these are. So at least those are there in your scope. Then the should have and could have are the good to have features. And then in the contract, based on the negotiations that I have with the customer and the relationship I am and whatever stake my company wants to put in, we put in that, okay, out of the should have and could have, we will do X percentage. Because we all know that the product backlog never exhausts. So we say that, okay, should have and could have, we will do at least X percentage. And then what happens? If somebody decides to add a new feature here, we take out a feature from here. So you might hear a name in the industry called change for free. So what they are saying is this new feature which I've shown by plus side, you got for free. What was the flip side of it? This last could have feature, maybe which is down in the product backlog, so it is not as high. We are reducing, we are dropping. The key here is going to be how do you decide what is an equivalent feature? I have said that drop an equivalent feature, but how do you decide? And that is what needs to be clarified in the upcoming slides. I'm going to be talking about how do you decide an equivalent also. So how do you make these changes easy? First is simplify the change management governance. When I was starting, I told usually we have this lengthy change board process. These many people should be approved. These many people should, endorse the change. There should be a penalty, this, that. We have to ensure that the governance is not that difficult. The change governance has to be easy. So some of the ways which I have seen is, of course, the last one, simplify your workflows. Make the approval easy. Provide multiple ways to approve. In the contract itself state that email by such and such level person will be accepted as an approval. But more than that, consider a bucket approach. What is a bucket approach? Consider that anything up to the level of say 100,000 USD can be managed at the PO level. As you go above, maybe at 500,000 USD, you need approval from a product manager or a senior PO. Anything beyond that needs a CXO level approval. So consider these buckets so that at least the smaller changes are accepted easily. It is easy to get them approved. You do not have to have the same approval cycle for everything. Second thing which is interesting is have regular reviews with the management. And I'm not talking only with the product owner, but with some of the contracts I have written, I have made this as a critical requirement that all levels of management attend at least one integrated review a month or a quarter based on the program. What happens because if I do this, the management also sees it early if there are any changes or changes of direction is required. See, management doesn't give you changes because they love it. It's because often senior managers will see it only after 6 months and a year, and then there will be a big change. So for me, making these three things, a bucket approach, simplifying your workflows, and ensuring that you have integrated demos very often. You can call them whatever. You can call them integrated reviews, program reviews, demo, management reviews, steering committee. All these names I've used in many of the contract, but make them part of your contract so that people attend. So how are you going to be ready for the unexpected? Things are going to change. So what have you got to do? You have got to define size. You have got to handle how you are going to handle the duration changes. Sometimes the project gets extended, some dependencies do not happen, some more works comes in, or technology changes sometime, you need more changes. And the third part is make it easy to stop the project. Do not make it a contractual nightmare for either the customer or the vendor to stop the project. So how do we go about it? Define size. I had initially itself told you that defining this size or taking out that equivalent change is what causes a lot of issues, because customer will won't say that okay, no, the one I'm putting in is very little, you can take out only very little, and the vendor will say no. So best is create a reference story point. Create that. What do you mean by story is simple. Document it in your contract initially. And take multiple example of the same complexity. Say for simple, say that okay, a story having 3 UI changes and 2 databases is simple, or only 7 UI changes is simple, or only 6 queries is simple. So consider this parallel stories references so that it is easy to pick and choose when you're actually doing the changes. So create this reference story once at the start of the project. And after that, keep on updating the reference bank. I told you that create a way for an integrated demo. What I personally figured out is, along with that integrated demo at the same frequency, maybe different people join, but you create an event or a meeting where you review your reference stories and keep on adding to it, so that this adding new thing, taking out, adding new thing, taking out becomes easier as your program goes on. You keep on adding to your reference base. Now, to keep it even perfectly legal, we have in some of my contracts simply stated that the reference story point will be, maintained at XYZ location, so that you have the flexibility of changing it. You are not tied to a certain reference point. Create working agreements for sizing. Decide that, if there is a disagreement between the customer and vendor, higher size gets taken, lower size gets taken. Once the customer agrees, once the vendor agrees, whatever works for you, but create a working agreement around how you are going to do this. And this working agreement also can be kept on updated. But you have to be, ready to define this size, and some of these things help me avoid the heartache discussions afterwards. Because I already know what is a simple story. It just becomes a transaction of taking out one, adding another. Now we have defined the size, but you also have to be ready for the unexpected. By that, what I mean is duration and technology updates. What do I mean by duration and technology updates? Your project is going to come across some, hitches, some delays will come, something will happen, another lockdown will come, or and your project will go ahead. So you have to have easy governance mechanism. Now I'm keeping on writing this again and again, easy governance mechanism. But believe me, keep it simple is the mantra which helps in contracts. Do not try to create a ladder of 10 people who has to approve every schedule change. The way, I said that you use a bucket approach, in that a small change in 100K USD, PO can approve 500K USD, the senior product manager can approve, beyond that CXO is needed. Even here in schedule changes, you can have buckets like that. And just an adjustment of items in the schedules, the PO can go ahead. But if you are delaying something, you need a senior, and you can create buckets accordingly. What is a little difficult is how do you prepare for the technology changes? The technology changes come because of two reasons. A, the technology itself evolves. And B, you do not initially know that certain technology will work for you not. All of you might remember those 867 assumptions you have written. Amar, I have noted your question. Give me a minute. I'll finish it off and we'll come. So you all have noted those 867 assumptions for technology. This will work. Postman as a tool for API will work. But what if it doesn't? So for that, consider an innovation sprint. Maybe after every 4 sprints, 6 sprints, 8 sprints, whatever the period you want to go for, consider a sprint in which you focus on to technology changes, POCs, prototyping, so that you come to know the technology challenges earlier. One of the challenges we discussed in Waterfall was prototype, that there is no innovation. Bake innovation in your contract. And we feel that customers won't be ready to pay for it. My experience is, once I explained, 8 out of 10 customers are ready for it. But you have to explain what you are going to do there. You cannot simply say these are our time to catch up. Yes, Samar.
I was having the question. Most of the times, the technology updates are ignored by the product owners. Most of the times, the technology updates are ignored by the product owners as the existing system is fine and working things. But how do we normally convince the product owners to accept the technology changes in first place?
Once you get, it's that senior management will be very much cognizant that technology updates and challenges will come because they have burned their hands before. So bake it into your contracts. Then you have an IP sprint every 3 sprints, 4 sprints period you have done.
Yeah.
In that sprint, you do a quick prototype along with an ROI. And then when you're talking with the PO, talk to him in terms of a return on the investment. That if we do this, you save this much money, this much time or whatever. Or if you do this activity to reduce the tech debt, this is what. Product owners, whenever I'm teaching Scrum, I say that they have dollars in their eyes. Talk with them in dollars. It works.
Okay. Let me try that.
Absolutely. Anybody else has a question?
So I have a question, Sneha.
Yes, please.
So maybe my question is a bit generic, but I have written, at least 25 to 30 contracts with, with small scale customers, medium scale customers, and always the contracts that I write, there's always one learning that happens after every contract that I write is it's never specific enough. There is always some kind of resolution that needs to happen, some kind of disagreement that keeps happening. So with every contract, my learning is, next time I have to make it more clear, more specific. And that's how I went. But based on what I'm seeing so far, it looks like writing these contracts can be tricky. In your experience, I guess my question is it realistic to make an open contract like this and still avoid disagreements at the end?
The thing, Vishal, is how much of a specific you want to try. The whole premise we are working is things are changing. So even when you make them specific, they change. How many times you have come across a contract where all that 687 assumptions came true? It doesn't, right? So we have to now be prepared. So what, as we go, I will talk about it. But what I do is I create a space out there to change my working agreements. I told you that I do that integrated demo, right? At the same time, usually I create a space to change my working agreements. So that provides me a little less complicated way of changing. Because whatever we try, we do not know all the specifics, how much ever hard you try. The last thing that I told you was make it easy for both vendor and the customer to stop the product. Now, how does that happen? Let us leave aside the case where one of the parties is unhappy and wants to terminate the contract. I'm not talking about that termination. I'm talking about the customer believes that okay, most of my value has got. I have got 80% of value. Now, if if we keep on adding effort, it is just spending more effort than the ROI of it. In such a case, if the customer stops it, the product immediately, vendor is going to have an issue. Because we had predicted something, you had committed something, now pay us. Now, if I ask the customer to pay that entire amount, then what happens? It is not fair to the customer. They have not got value out of that much of money. So I'm yet to meet a customer who will happily say that, it doesn't matter, Snehami, we will pay because we have got most of the value. And, it doesn't happen in real life like that. So, but, this is something which works only with the matured customer when we agree to share the saved cost. Say that we are having a project worth of whatever, $1 million, and 80% of the cost is incurred, you have got the value, everybody is happy. Now the product owner believes that putting more effort into this is not going to give you that much of a value. It is plateaued. Each product will have a plateau stage. It is plateaued. And we have what 200K remaining into the contract. If I tell the customer just pay the vendor 200K, obviously customer will not agree. If I tell the vendor that okay, let go of that 200K and stop the product, the vendor might agree with a frown on their face and with an unhappiness. But you agree to share the saved cost. What ratio? Again, depends upon the negotiation skills both the parties have. But you share, you give the vendor a bonus that you get so much of money, which is just, you are not doing anything but getting the money. So vendor is more amenable to stop the project. Customer also, they were anyway liable to spend those 200K, but are now, going to spend only 100K. So there is a benefit for both. Now, this is something very recently, and, some customers have started to accept only after a long relationship. So do not try this thing with a fresh new logo that you are trying to chase. Might not work that way. Any questions or can I move on? So I had promised you that a large program, the clarity you have about requirements goes on changing. When we start the program, we only have the vision and the mission. We want to digitize the bank. But we do not know the details about it. We do not know, how we are going to do, what scale we are talking about. As we go, the clarity increases. So on the right-hand side is where we start. The complete uncertainty piece is where we start. And then what do you do for them? During this period, you go for short T&M based sprint. Maybe, for a three-year program, I have seen that the short T&M based sprints go on for 4 or 5 months. But this is based on my burnt fingers. Based on I have seen what works. So consider a short T&M based sprint for the early part of your project. Then once you are clear, when I say clear, you are clearer. In Agile, yes, requirements are always evolving. Then you create a more structured sprints, but you also see that there will be a size driven extension, that this much amount of work extra, this much amount of effort, money, whatever extra, and provision for limited scope update. If you see that must have, could have, should have structure that I showed you, it doesn't allow a completely random changes. It allows you changes within specifications. It gives you a guardrail which can make you change it. And then once you are towards the late end of the program, you can go back to our earlier old of fixed scope, fixed duration, because by that time you know everything. And at this time, put schedule incentives. If you do fast, you get this much of a benefit. Again, a personal recommendation, there is no theory to any of this, is that it helps to have a large master contract which talks about your legalities, your rates and whatever at the program level, and then go for smaller individual work orders. So the large master contract will have all your usually not moving details, and the smaller work orders can then decide that, okay, this piece of my work is still not clear, let me go for TNM. This piece of my work is fixed scope, fixed duration, let me put a schedule incentive there. So it allows you to have different type of contracts within the same program. And Vishal, this also will help you with your earlier problem of bringing in more specification, because you are now having small contracts for small pieces of work. So you have some time to actually implement your lessons learned rather than waiting for the end of the program. So anybody has any questions till now? Yes, Ajay.
Yes. What is provision for size-driven extension? That I could not understand.
Size-driven extension, as in put in. We have created a size reference bank by now, right?
बढ़िया
Those who are not speaking, can you put yourself on mute? So Ajay, we talked about creating a size reference bank, right? Creating a different reference bank. So then you create provision of extension based on the size, that okay, if you add a work of size this much will be the effort and the schedule extension. So you create that mechanism here.
ऑफिस का कॉल चल रहा है ऑफिस का काम चल रहा है
When you are,
I got it, Sneha. Then what is scope update? I thought that to be scope update.
kind of, yes, but what I wanted to speak here was the limited scope. And the first part will also talk about any schedule extension without getting a work extension. This could be because multi-vendor dependency or something completely out of blue, like a pandemic. A pandemic is a very severe example, but the dependency-driven delays are always there, right?
Yes.
So these will also be there in the size-driven extension, that this work is getting extended this much and that is why this much. So both the works kind of things will go together.
Oh, okay, got it. Thank you.
So anybody else has any other questions? Sure. Not sure why this way. So what are some of the contracts that you have seen working? Anybody wants to explain what some of the contracts you have seen working?
Sneha, I have the contract I have recently seen is it's in terms of fixed amount of work in a particular sprint. So it's not related to a sprint goal, but it's a large program. So there are different areas. So and the different departments. So they compete with each other for those bucket of for those story points. And then we know that, for example, it is 100 story points. So the customer decide among themselves that which story points they need to select, and we do that. So it's you can fixed commitment plus some best efforts.
And how is this working for you? Does it work well? Is it,
No, it's working very well.
it's working very well.
And we also have done platform maintenance or platform evolution stories that also customer knows that these are important to prioritize because software gets deprecated and some new changes keeps on coming, so they have to keep some
You
budget
have a
separate
good
for
customer,
that.
Ajay. Thanks
Sorry.
you have a good customer who accepts that these things have to be done. So please.
Yeah, it's very critical for customers' business, so they won't
Absolutely.
survive.
Absolutely. Anybody else who has tried any other format of working? See, some of the ones which I have found to work, first is good old time and material, where you simply say, give me, uh, 10% of, per person, give me $10 or whatever the rate is. Time and material, good old way of working. It works. But then it doesn't capture the value essence, and many of our customers these days will not be accepting the time and material of the way. Often you will say that time and material is not accepted. Even from the vendor side, if you are doing at a services level, they often do not want time and material because of the interviews involved and all that. So they want to talk more about create a barrier. The second one is fixed cost for an iteration. It is kind of a variation which Ajay was speaking about, where he is talking about that for a particular iteration of worth 100 points, you will get X amount of money. Now this, what Ajay has done is kind of put more specific about where you are putting even the value. So, but fixed cost for an iteration could also be, I will give you a squad which requires Java skills. I will give you a squad which requires Java and data warehousing skills, or whatever it is. So even within the same program, say we were writing a whole business transformation contract for one of the airlines that I was working with. And we had rates, fixed cost per iteration rates. And in the initial part of it, we did not even know enough to put a cap of, say, that in each iteration, we will deliver 100 points. So we simply put it at a level that, okay, for each iteration of only Java level of developers and testers, a cross-functional team, but for you mostly using Java skills, the charges will be this much of money. If you want some niche skill added, there will be extra. Or if you are going to simplify some of the skills, the charges will be less. So we had 4 such levels of teams based on the technology nicheness that we are trying to attack. Then once we had that clarity, we moved on to the third, fixed cost, fixed time with variability in scope. So that is where we had done something similar to what Ajay was saying. We fixed a point size because few months had started, our size reference bank had grown. So now it was easier for us to come to a conclusion of what does a point mean. So we could do that. To do this kind of commercial model, it is very necessary that your working agreements are well in place and you have a way to change those working agreements. Because otherwise, with that variability in scope, things like your definition of ready is not there, customer keeps on changing the requirements at the last time, and things like that come in, and then you cannot achieve a certain point scale. That is why if you are going to do this third type of contracts, which is, fixed cost for fixed time, basically for 5 iterations, you get this much of charge. Then you need a time and place created in your contract management where you can review the working agreements periodically. So creating this space for your ongoing discussions, because as we saw, the program changes over the period. Clarity changes, way we work changes, some of our assumptions either are proven true or wrong. So please create that space for discussion. The last, that money for nothing, where I had talked about, where we discussed that last thing, where we split the difference, make it easy for the product to end, or changes for free, I have put in gray. Not that these are not good mechanism, but these are at a level right now where a lot of customer maturity and the vendor maturity is required. So to reach for these, it takes a while before you reach these models of working. They sound really well, but you need some time out there. Any questions on some of the format of the?
So I have a question, Sneha.
Yes, Vishal.
So in the previous slide, for the time and material contract, you said you identified a couple of issues with that, but I didn't properly understand.
See, a time and material contract is a straightforward contract.
Yes.
You will get, if I put a senior architect, you get the senior architect for $1,000 per day or whatever the rate you might have. But in such a contract, usually there is no way to quantify what value you get or what you bring in. And many customers are not really willing to accept that kind of a contract because it leaves them vulnerable, because your time scale in this case can go on stretching and stretching and stretching. So they want to expect that by what time my project will end, because otherwise budgeting becomes very difficult for them. This was one side which I pointed out. Second side was, when you are wearing a services company hat, people, the way the companies are structured, are often, they want to get the execution done with junior set of guys. So often the way of working is one or two senior guys and rest of them junior guys. And time and material will typically involve interviews.
Okay.
So the vendors are also not happy with this format. So both the parties I have seen that are not very happy going for time and material. If somebody agrees, good for you. So clear?
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Anybody else has a question, or can we move on? We are coming to
Hi,
yeah.
this is Pankaj. Actually, I think that the time and material contact is not again good for where vendor need a space for innovation, or in other word, I can say as and when we grow with the better relation with customer, then time and material is not a good option.
Yes, I agree with you.
Okay.
Because the innovation becomes a problem. The way you work, it is just a transaction, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I agree with you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So next, what I want to talk about, when you are writing a agile contracts. So this last slide is kind of your ready reckoner. Things that you should keep in mind. And these things I have taken from some of the contracts that I have been involved in. Large contracts, small contracts. So these are not coming from some book which is very theoretical. These are some things which you will see working. So the first is what we already discussed. Consider a master service agreement, which probably talks about your vision, your mission, what you are trying to do, any legalities involved from both the companies, what happens if this customer suddenly goes bankrupt, those kind of things. All get it over with, because these are not what changes very often. Your vision doesn't change, some of your assumptions don't change. Put them in a master contract. And then have smaller order contract. What I have found out is contracts length of about 3 to 4 months work best for the smaller order contracts. Because they give the vendor some stability that next 4 months this is what is going to happen, and then they can plan. And it gives the customer some clarity as well as a way to change easier. So 3 to 4 months worth of orders together is what I have seen working. Again, no law per se, but I've seen that those work well. Also consider different order for different type of work. Don't try to create a mega order. If a particular in one program you have some work which is entirely predictable, put that in a fixed cost, fixed scope time. If some work which is completely erratic, completely unpredictable, try to put that in a more of a T&M basis. So try to create orders based on what work you are doing. Once you have done, in contract itself, formalize that you are going to be working in an incremental iterative way of delivery. This then holds both the vendor and customer together, responsible for doing their bit to do it. The customer is now accountable for doing the refinement on time, involving all the right stakeholders. The vendor is also accountable for, working with the customer and churning out increments sprint after sprint. So formalize this way of working in your contract itself. Often people used to ask me, why should we write that we will work in Agile in our contract? But that makes our intent clear. So the basic premise of should we be accepting change or not gets, out of arguments. So as a part of this incremental and iterative way of delivery, put ongoing user engagement in the contract. Often, you might have seen that a particular level manager delegates all his or her meetings. All reviews, my representative will come happens. And then when he or she turns up once in a blue moon after 6 months, boom, things change. So try to avoid that and ink it into your contract about what kind of user engagement is required. Is it a really fast changing product and you need an entire all hands on the deck review once in a month, or you can do that once in a quarter? Depends upon what is your program. But try to put this in your contract. Make it black and white. Similarly, create a space for ongoing updates to working agreements, definition of done, definition of ready. So what I used to do there is, in my contract, I simply mention working agreements will be as per process, place XYZ, and just mention a share folder file. So that allows both the teams to keep your working agreements, keep your definitions of ready, definitions of done updated. You are not held to a stagnant definition of done or a stagnant sizing idea. It allows you to accept the changing way of working. So your working is also iterative, not only incremental. The fifth point is more about starting, when you're starting one program, maybe this will work easier for a one program, one product kind of a contract. So when you're starting, maybe you can start worth of 3 or 4 sprints of backlog is clearly refined. And you know what are you doing. And then again, the way you create a space for your working agreement, for your definition of done, definition of ready, you say that, okay, the program backlog will be maintained at X, Y, and Z place. And that is where we will have that must have, should have classification. So if you see what I'm trying to do is create a structure of the work and then gives breathing space so that our way of working can be changed. What we work can be changed. So this can be one of the ways where we try to, avoid getting trapped in too many specifics at the beginnings. We anyway don't know those specifics at that point. Sixth is create space for innovation sprints. Maybe it requires some level of trust with your customers and some level of comfort. But believe me, customers who know the importance of why the changes have to be done will agree. I told you almost 80% of my customers agree to having an innovation sprint. And it's a paid sprint. It's not that we are putting it as a value add. Maybe initially, sometimes. I've done that. I said that, okay, innovation sprint, I will not bill you because I want to do it. I just want to get a foothold into that customer. But after that, customers agree. And then that is where you have that space to prove yourself, prove a concept to the customer. That if we do this, this is the benefit. If we do this to reduce our technical debt, this is the benefit. Remember, product owner has only dollars in his or her eyes. But create the structure. Last is make a way possible where you look at your program as a component. So this talks about your technical architecture. Don't try to make the whole architecture upfront because you get locked to it. But even your program architecture, maybe your whole program vision is to digitize the entire bank. But start with a smaller contract so that you can start working on it. Maybe have a master contract which is signed by multiple teams together. Maybe a master way of working way, and try to have components created because multi-vendor structure is here to stay. So with that, we'll come towards end of it. I think we have a break of 5 minutes and then I open it up for question and answers. So a break of 5 minutes. I'm anyway going to be here. So if you want to start talking. Madhuri, you had any questions noted down?
No.
Okay, no, because I
There
didn't.
is a question from Raghuram. Define size means function points.
A size could be whatever you want. I usually stay away from sticking with a recognized sizing format like function points, which everywhere in the industry has the same size. Just because then it becomes too much into discussion and whether this is half and one and whatever it is. Rather than that, I like to say that between, I'm just giving an example, between Singapore Airlines and TCS, a simple story is of 8 points and it means this. A complicated story is of 40 points and it means this. So I have found out that that helps. So Raghunath, does that answer your question?
There's one more question by Raghuram itself. Working agreement, SOW.
Raghuram, can you explain that question? I'm sorry, I couldn't get your question. Are you there, Raghuram? So maybe we'll go for a 5 minutes break and then come back.
Yes, it's 8:06 in IST. We'll just get back in 5 minutes. 8:11, we'll get back.
Sure.
Hi, Sneha, are you there?
Yes, I'm there, but I think a lot of the students have gone for a break. So we are coming back in 4 more minutes.
Yeah, sure. Just in the meantime, can I ask a question in the meantime, probably if you're comfortable, otherwise I'll be.
You can definitely ask me a question, but if I want to answer it when everybody is there, I will tell you so. So go ahead, please.
Okay, I think in general, probably may ask into that at the moment. Yep.
Yes, go ahead.
Yep. To connect into that, like, do you have any kind of the templates in terms of into that, for the customers specific, following into that, whereas, for example, into that, maybe going to that airlines, having into that in the kind of the format is different, and banking sector in the sense like
It's
financial.
definitely different. However, sharing the format is not allowed by multiple NDAs that I have signed, right?
Yeah,
Because an
agreed. Yeah,
airline wouldn't want me to share their work progress.
agreed. Yeah, correct. Yes.
So, what
The
typically
reason,
happens? Yeah, go ahead,
Mhm.
Damodar.
Sorry. The reason why I'm asking is, I mean, the people who are working into that the roles, so it would be, differs into that, the project to project. Sometimes we need to switch over to, financial domains to other domain. So during that time, it is very big challenge to, go, though they're having into the experience in the past. So when moving into the other domain, the relevant projects, probably we need to be go back into that from scratch. So to understand into that. So what exactly into that? As you said, this I know someone is asked into that, the functional points. That could be, one reason. It will be, the difference into that, domain to domain, and as well as the technology to technology. What I feel into that, if you go into that big data projects, so where exactly, while working into that, that will be the difference into the sizing of the data, how we are maintaining into that, and what kind of,
Right, Damodar. So once everybody is back in another couple of minutes, we can discuss this in more detail. However,
Yep.
your company might have some small repository of contracts, sanitized
Yes,
contract or something.
definitely. Yeah, we do have it into that. I think,
You work with which company?
I am working for the TCS. Yeah.
Hmm.
Sorry, I have joined into the middle of that. I was there into that, other parallel in customer
All
meeting.
right, all right.
Yeah.
No, I spent 20 years with TCS.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
I just quit TCS and I've started freelancing.
Oh,
The
I think
TCS
definitely.
has their own repositories of contract.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
So if you ping me offline, I'll tell you
yeah,
whom to connect to get a look at few of good agile contracts within
sure.
it.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sneham. I mean, this is my 15th year in TCS.
Wonderful. TCS, what I have seen is those who stick. People like me will quit because we want to do something of my own, not because we want to go to a competition.
Yeah, correct. Exactly. That's true. I mean, before that, I used to be having into that switching. So once you join to the TCS, then, it's not getting into that. In fact, the thought to,
So which unit you work for?
I'm working for, currently for the energy. Earlier, I've been there with BFS. Right now, I'm at in UK. Then, this engagement have been taken into that last few months back. Yeah. So this is completely the different. For me, the
Yeah, I
energy
know.
is the kind of the new. That's what maybe, triggered into the.
It is different. It is different. Yes, true.
Yeah.
So we'll wait a couple of minutes, let everybody join back.
Yeah.
Madhuri, you just let us know once people are back, okay?
It's already 8:11.
It
Okay.
is, I think, yes.
Yes, we can get started. Hope everybody is back.
Everybody, please, I'm not going to show you any slides. We are going to talk. So please switch on your videos.
Neha, I have a quick question.
Yes, please.
So, I mean, like, is there a good, I don't know, is there a good website or a good repository where we can look at some sample agile contracts?
I was just talking with Damodar about it. No company will share their contracts.
Okay.
I am in process of writing a couple of blogs which explain these same things. I will have contracts which I have written with other companies, but as you can imagine, there are tight enough NDAs around them that I don't want to break them.
Yes.
And other companies will not want to share their contracts, right? So, but within your organization, you might have a way in which your company shares some of the contracts, among others, and sanitized contracts. So, which company you work for, Vishal?
Right now, it's my own company.
Right now, it's your own company. So then you do not have a repository. But what you can do is there are consultants out there who review your contracts on your behalf.
Oh, okay.
So maybe what a few of my friends do is get those reviewers in for 2-3 different projects so that you have a template.
Okay. All right. It's a good idea.
Make my
See, I mean,
program.
probably, I mean, you are trying to say that the review is in the sense like, the security side, or how they will, in terms of the billing side, they used to review into that.
Different. For a large contract, there will be different people reviewing different things. There will be legal team who reviews your legalities of it. There is a financial team who looks at your risk profile. There is a agile consultant like me who looks about all of these agile things that we talked about.
Yeah.
So whether you hire an external consultant to do any of these things, in TCS also we hire them.
Right. Correct. Yeah.
So it just depends upon what you want reviewed. I think Raghuram had a question before we went for a break. So Raghuram, are you there?
Yeah, he also have given few more questions there.
All right, we can talk about it.
Yes, a statement of work is written by customer. This is the only one we have from customer.
A statement of work, Raghuram, is just a statement of what work needs to be done. So it is written jointly by customer and vendor. It simply will say, okay, this is the work. Maybe you put your scope in some time limits. Must have, should have, could have, and sometimes. And then you put some contractual rates. So it's written by customer and the vendor together. It's not only one scope document given by. Maybe the terminology will be different in your organization. Does that answer your question, Raghuram?
Yeah. Okay. But this all these contracts and the agreement, everything, when it comes from the customer, it is of scope or this thing. So in Agile, how you are writing the scope, cost, time, everything?
See,
because we have one document SOW. That's all. Nothing else is there. How you are how you are converting it into Agile contract agreement?
Okay. So if you have in that SOW or whatever customer gives you scoping, whatever name we give to that document, if the scope is granular enough, it can still change, but it has details. In that case, we simply divide the scope into the MVP must have, then should have, and could have. That okay, you have given us a list of, I'm just taking an example, 250 requirements. Out of that, these 13 requirements are must. There is no value without all of these 30. Then the next 40 requirements are good to have, but they will add great value. The next 20-25 requirements are good, no something small. So you get into a workshop with the customer, get this refinement done, and then put this must have, should have, could have as a structure. And then along with that, you say, okay, MVP we will give by X time. Now that you have the scope, you put some timeline to it. Remaining time, every sprint you will give work worth of X size. And then put in that sizing change structure that I told you about. That if you add a simple story as a new change, remove the one simple story from your existing product backlog. Because the thing is, even when your customer gives you a scope of work, that scope of work is not frozen. If the scope of work was in such that it never changes, we would have gone for waterfall way of working. No, we would not have come to agile way of working.
Correct. So this T&M as per Agile is exceeding the SOW. So in that condition, how will you accommodate? Because at the last slide you told T&M.
T&M is one of them, yes.
As per Agile, T and after converting SOW into, as you said, this all these things must have all these things. T and M mentioned in SOW is limited, and Agile is exceeding the time.
Okay, so what you're saying is we have done the must have, should have, could have, and we are all thinking that okay, this project will go on for 6 months.
Okay.
Maybe I'm just giving an example. And what you're saying is to finish everything, we are going to take 9 months. Is that the question?
Yeah, in Agile, time is exceeding when compared to SOW agreement. SOW
What happens in Agile is waterfall. So what works at that point is either between the customer and the vendor, you agree that okay, we will do the next 3 months work. Or you agree that okay, you have got the best value in the 6 months and we will stop the work here. Which of the two options you choose depends upon the negotiation between customer and the vendor.
So in this cost SOW cost is mentioned, time is mentioned.
Possibly.
So what to do if time is exceeding? They are telling maybe another 1 month, two scrum or two. Because if Agile, there is a limited stuff, right?
Correct. So we will have to agree upon
1 month they will agree, but 3 months they won't agree, right?
Possibly. I don't know why. It depends upon why that 3 months delay is coming. Is that 3 months delay because the customer gave some other work in? Then the customer will agree. But is that 3 month delay because the vendor did not have proper skills? The customer won't agree. So you will have to see why and then negotiate accordingly. Negotiations do not go anywhere. Yes.
But is it possible to increase the resource and accommodate the time accordingly so that this 1 month extension given, 7th month extension given by the this can be met? Something like
sometimes yes, sometimes no. Again, depends upon the negotiation. Is it happening because the customer put in more requests? Then yes. Then does the work allow you to put in more requests? It is not always a question of putting in more effort. So is it possible, first of all? So sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Okay, got it.
Thank you so much. I heard somebody start asking a question, but I'm sorry I missed that. All right, Ajay, go ahead.
Yes, Neha. One thing, like just related to the previous discussion you just have had. Now, if there are could, must have, should have, could have 3 scenarios. So in a general contract, we generally, if timelines are defined, then for timelines we only give commitment.
I'm sorry, Ajay. You generally do what?
Am I audible?
Yes, but there was a break at my network side, so I couldn't hear you. So if you could repeat, that would be great.
Yeah. So generally for such a contract, which you just had discussion with, now, do we only take for fixed scope contract only must-haves and commitment is only for must-haves and should-have are not tied to the scope timelines?
What I have seen working, again, there is no rule per se, is that you definitely include the must-have because that is your MVP. Without that, you cannot move. And then you define based upon how your should have and could have is coming up. You give them a size of work that, okay, my should have today has got 32 requirements. And so I will do work equivalent size of those 32 requirements. So if something comes up, something goes out.
Got it. Very well explained. Thank you.
Thanks, Ajay. Anybody else has a question? I think Sneha was trying to ask something when I told her that Raghuram had asked even before, and let us take that. So Sneha, are you there? I think she's dropped off. Anybody else? Any other questions?
Sneha, could you, sorry, there was a break from my end. You mentioned something 32 to explain that and I lost that. So could you please?
Yeah, what I was saying is, you have a requirement work, customer has given you a work, you do a very rough sizing, it comes out to be a size of 60. What 60? 60 points, 60 days, let us not get into size of 60. Out of that, first 10 is MVP. You have to do it, there are must-haves.
Right.
You do it. And then you, with your negotiation with the customer, decide that our current contract will accommodate 32 more points of work. Then, in that 32 points, if you say you have consumed even the first 10 MVP point and then 5 more points from the 32. So you have 32 minus 5, 27 points remaining. Customer gives you a completely new requirement worth 5 points. And says this is very important, this is going to revolutionize, give us high ROI. You say, okay, I will do it, but take out, the last 5 units of it.
Oh.
And that is where to make this swap easy, you should have a good enough reference sizing ready. What do you mean by a simple story? What do you mean by a story which is size of 8? What do you mean by a story which is size of 10? There should be multiple examples. So this bank has to be detailed enough for you.
Yeah. But that reference repository would not ready for the fresh project after the 1 year down the line. Yeah.
So maybe 6 months is what I have seen it takes. That is why you remember we discussed that in the earlier part of it, maybe for the first 3 months or so, go for a shorter time and material thing. That okay, for this I will charge you for a team worth of 10 people, and while we are getting settled, and customers agree for that.
Yeah.
As long as it is for a limited period, you don't tell them that entire program I'll do it that way.
Yeah. Understood. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pankaj. Anybody else has any other question?
Yeah, there's a question, or I don't know. Jagan Naidu has just posted that the content is maximized, that it's not fitting the monitor dimensions. Hope Jagan Naidu is here.
I believe that happened before while maybe I was sharing the screen, because right now I'm not sharing anything.
Yeah. Acha, it's about the.
I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe somebody it was not able
It was
to.
the earlier question. It was the earlier.
Possible, yeah. So everybody now will be expert in writing the contracts. No more doubts.
No, nothing like that. So I will be reaching out to you if need arises.
Absolutely. I had shared my connects, right? Search on LinkedIn. There are not many Snehawais around.
Yeah, definitely.
That's one advantage of having a unique name.
True, very true.
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn.
Okay.
If you can't still reach me, reach out to Madhuri. She will know how to get hold of me. Madhuri, please, I'm going to increase your work.
Definitely, with pleasure.
She'll know how to get hold of me.
Thank you, Sneha. It was a very wonderful, very insightful session. Really appreciate that.
So anybody else has any other questions? Otherwise, I'll hand it over to Madhuri.
Now, will we get that recording of that webinar?
That is a question I'll share to hand it over to Madhuri only. Madhuri, do we share the recordings?
Yes, we will post the video. We'll make a video of this entire session and post it on our social media and share the link across the LinkedIn or the YouTube channel. Then you can have a view to it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sneha, one last question. I mean,
you can have multiple ones. We still have time. Go ahead.
Okay. Maybe too general in nature, but see, in the current scenario of all the scope and roadmaps being more outcome based rather than output based, right? Then that becomes a little bit difficult to quantify it in terms of the smaller pieces within a contract, right? Like even if you're talking about a collective review session or a demo session, that's a double-edged sword there again. I mean, you may get more elements which may be a part of the backlog. Now, how do you accommodate those things? Because you're talking of an outcome which might be a little vague, which will be very difficult to actually squeeze it into within the scope of what you have already defined. So, how do you handle this in a contract?
See, many of the contracts are still the what you're talking about is you share the risk and you share the reward, right?
Right.
what I have seen working is pure risk reward model doesn't exist in our industry yet. 100% that you do not pay me anything. And, if the cost comes across, I will take the entire cost and then I'll share 50% in your gains. I have not seen too many contracts of that sort. What I have seen is there is a baseline of contract that, okay, at least I will charge you enough to, justify my effort I have spent. And then ongoing basis, I will get X percentage of the benefits. I have seen these working more. Again, this is an experience and not a rule. When the risk or reward is not directly about revenue. Because when it is directly about revenue, customers wouldn't want to share their IP with anybody else. Right. So this is what legally I have seen. So what works is a more non-tangible benefit, and then you have a certain slab of rates agreed. If your NPS improves by so much percentage, if your customer complaints go down by so much percentage, those kind of outcomes I have seen getting more successful into putting into contracts. Because when you come into direct revenue increase and sharing into that part of it goes beyond agile or waterfall and gets into that legal and IP territory, which I really am not equipped to talk about.
True. Yeah. The thing is, see what happens generally in if you have these collective reviews, the more people involved, or as you said, the more senior in the organization, they come for reviews maybe once in a quarter. The most inputs are from them in terms of what could have been better, what could have been done.
Because they know, they have burned their hands before, so they know where the things were, what you need to change. So yes, I agree with you that they will give you most feedback.
Yeah, but that becomes a little bit of a difficult part to include it within the agreed scope and the capacity which you have planned for over a period of time. Yes.
No, you cannot agree it within the agreed scope. It will be in the agreed capacity, because if they put in something, you take out something.
Oh, right. Yeah. So you go with that method of, okay.
I go with that. Imagine work as a cup. Put in something, take out something.
Yeah. So rather than, okay.
Yeah, no freelance.
Yeah, good to have can be done away with, and
can be done away with, and be upfront with it. See, whether you charge them for not or not, leave it up to your both the managements to fight it out. But at least be very clear about the quantity of work the team is doing on the ground.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Raghuram.
These contracts, are you discussing in PA planning stage or before that, or at what stage these things come into picture?
My personal experience, there is no rule in the industry per se for this, is that the first bit of short-term contracts start coming in when you are doing the vision exercise, even before your first PA. Then, during your each PA is a very, very good place for you to review your working agreements, work out the smaller work packets, review your sizing assumptions and all of that. But the start usually happens even when your visioning is happening, at least with your trusted partners. Maybe some of your other partners will come in as the work packets are being discussed and more details are there. So does that answer your question, Raghuram?
Yeah, got it. Thing is, here you told review. When we review, there are some risks come into picture in the contract itself. Okay.
Risks.
So in the first PA planning, there are some risk.
Correct.
So is it that risks are included in your contract and accordingly estimate your estimate?
Possibly, yes. Depends upon each company's risk tolerance. Some companies will be really willing to take the risk for higher reward. Some companies are risk averse. So yes, but it is good idea to be at least aware of those risks.
So in contract there is some risk related
yes,
statements also, right?
You could put yes that there is a risk that this particular program may be shelved off after 3 months because of budget constraints or whatever it is. Yes, you could.
Like this particular, see, in one company, software division is separate, hardware is separate, two different heads.
Possibly,
So
yes.
it depends on a hardware. It depends on a hardware supposed to deliver, assemble in the PLC, and then HMI SCADA. So in this HMI SCADA, after PLC comes, I mean hardware come into picture, then only this software. Otherwise, there is a risk that there is a delay or something like that.
Absolutely, these will come. Or sometimes what happens is you break out your work orders into smaller packages. So for the software package, the hardware package becomes an input criteria only. That we say unless this is a big dependency where so you do manage, yes.
Yeah, it is a risk actually.
It is a risk, and if that risk is such, that the management or the working team believes that this really has got a good potential, you document it.
We can
yes, you can
document in the contract itself.
You can document in the contract itself. I have done that in some cases.
Oh, thank you. Got it.
Sneha, there's one more question by Syed Nasir. Is there any specific tool for writing contracts?
Not that I have come across. There are these big 5 consulting agencies which do contract negotiations as their business. They might have some things, but not that I'm aware of. It's basically how much burn marks you have on your hands and how many gray hair you have. Does that answer your question, Syed?
Yeah, he said thank you.
Yeah, Sneha, I have one question. Yeah, nowadays actually organization is looking for safe, scaled agile, and they want to scale the agile culture and all. So they want such kind of culture in our team and all, but they are not spending for actual agile implementation. So yeah, so as a vendor, they expect like, okay, PI planning and all this agile train, we want to get that much value, but they are not spending on agile. So definitely the vendor will not have that much tooling and all, so that we can pace our work like that and we can deliver.
True.
So what the vendor should take care to get like show their value and the balance kind of relationship with the customer.
What has worked for me, I'll tell you. I don't know. There is no, again, such a direct way because this is not a directly contracting related question. But while I was negotiating these kind of large contracts, I always positioned an agile coach as a proper billable person, and not even for an agile. So recently we were working for a telecom transformation program for a customer. It was a BSS transformation program which was supposed to go for 3.5 years. So we positioned an agile coach as an integral part of the team.
Okay.
Told the customer, this is why we want to do it in agile, and there will be an agile coach, and this is the value. And then we leverage this agile coach to talk to the customer about how the different tools can help, or how the ongoing customer engagement can help. How that we need to train your POs also, because POs also don't know how to work in agile.
Yes.
So this is how is one way of addressing the risk.
Okay. Is it any like specific term or clause you used to add or you came across like that? No.
Clause, yes, about tooling, yes, we used to put in some of the contracts that, we need tools which do X, Y, and Z, story management, CI/CD, and something. So therefore, we, in some of the cases, when the program, TCS was one of the more stronger vendor, we used to build in the cost of the tools in our proposition.
Okay.
So it depends upon, again, each program and what you are trying to get out of it.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense.
So no one size fits all solution here.
Yes, agreed. Because I will give you one thought that I had like while working on one contract. Like if we use that particular safe related tool, then we will be able to deliver that much value. But if
Yes,
we do it by ourselves, then we might able to give that much, like 20% something, whatever. So,
possible. Yes, we
but
could do that.
yeah, because client not sure like okay if we apply, use the safe, how much we are able to deliver,
True,
how much benefit we get.
true. Uh, Jeff Sutherland, there was this article I was reading, and his company has a online webinar. You can see it, go search for Scrum in. They say that give the customer two scenarios. If I do this way, this much charge. If I do this way, this much charge. So what they're describing is that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anybody else? Next question, please.
And a question from Syed Nasir. Does project and contract are managed by the same manager? Another question by him itself. Is it necessary for two different individuals to handle these two roles? Is what
Yeah. So usually, what I have seen work is there is a person who specializes in contracts, especially the scope and the time, the way of working part of it. However, the person, it is really good if you have that person who's going to manage the project identified early, and that person is fully involved into your contract writing phase, so that that person knows what he or she is committed to. So skill set wise, my observation is that usually there will be a senior person who's driving the whole exercise, because there are more aspects to the contract than what we have discussed here. Say there is a legal, there is a commercial negotiation part of it, your best offer, your final offer, and part like that. Then there are internal approvals teams. So there is one person who drives it, but it is good practice to have your program manager a part of that or not.
Thank you, Sneha.
Yeah. Raghuram's question, whether V model can be converted into Agile. Based upon, it depends upon whether your requirements are evolving or not. If your requirements are steady, it may make more sense for you to be in waterfall. If not, yes, it can be done in Agile. Sneha, I think I have you. Your question has been getting cut off for a long time now. So, would you like to ask? Sneha, are you there? I think, yeah, she's not there. Anybody else who has any question at this point?
I'm good.
Great. So switch on your videos, everybody. Let us, see some action there. Good, good. Thanks, Deepak. Thanks, Pankaj. Thanks. So hopefully, at least some questions you have are answered for you. If you have any more questions, now is the time to ask. Otherwise, you can always hire me as a contractor. I'm a freelancing agent now. So you can always hire me as a contractor for your organization. Jokes apart, but you can reach out to me. So, Madhuri, can I hand it over to you?
yes. If all the questions are done, I'll take back the session. Thank you, everybody. So just we will have a few more minutes and then we will conclude the session. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Oh, I started sharing my screen again, and I am sharing you a link on the chat. That is a feedback. Just few minutes we will spend here to have the feedback here, just to improvise ourselves and to give your best for you as well. So we are here doing these community activities to help you out with various other, doubts or queries. We are doing this community development event as a part of that. Please give us your valuable feedback, and then we'll conclude. We'll just wait for a few more minutes and then start concluding the session. I request everybody to kindly stay back. We have a few more surprises waiting. Can anybody confirm that they are able to access the link that I have given, the feedback form?
Yeah, I could fill it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I also done. I already done.
Thank you, Pankaj. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We'll just wait for 1 more minute and then we'll conclude. Yeah, thank you everybody for the responses. We are thanking you once again. So we'll conclude the session. So somebody was asking to how to add SUs. Now that you have earned 2 SUs attending this event, and you can add these SUs to your Scrum Alliance dashboard by creating in the category. You can add these 2 SUs, and I request my teammate Ishwari. She'll post the link or the blog to how to add SUs. There you go. That is the blog on our website. You can read that blog and add your SUs to the Scrum Alliance dashboard. Next, we have also happy to announce and glad to announce that for the year 2022, we have been the best Agile consulting and transforming companies for the year 2022 by the Business Connect magazine. This is an honor, and thank you everybody for being a part of our journey so far. And the best is from you as well. So you have been part of us, and that is the best thing is happening to us as well. And now there is a regional Scrum gathering, and the title sponsor is Scrum Alliance for this. We are as a part of the another community development resource, which is PremierAgile, where there are 3 renowned CSTs affiliated to this PremierAgile community. It's a community. So they have announced a regional Scrum gathering 2022 for the year 2022. There are 2 types of Scrum gathering here: the global Scrum gathering and the regional Scrum gathering. Global gathering happens 2 times. This year it's happening in Denver and Brisbane. So you can visit Scrum Alliance to know more about these gatherings. And as we are part of PremierAgile is a part of PremierAgile and organizing this regional Scrum gathering for the year 2022. And it's we have keynote speakers there, where the co-chairs are Suresh Kunduru, Vijay Bandaru, and Nanda Lankalpalli here for this gathering. And it's happening on July 8th and 9th with a minimum fee for these registrations. And the registrations are also open. I'm also posting the I request my team to kindly post the link of the Scrum gathering. There you go. You can register using this event, where generally the Scrum gatherings are quite higher note of price, but this is very minimal price to get registered for this. This is also happening in our IST time zone, 6 to 10. And I would request everybody to kindly register, and this will help you to move where there is large gathering of to know more about agility and Scrum, where different coaches, trainers are also there in this Scrum gathering. Now that the registrations are open, you can directly register either in the Scrum Alliance or at the link provided. So answering Satya's question, this is an online session. It's not in person since last year also it happened, and this is also an online session. Thank you very much, everybody.
So Madhuri, if you can allow me for a minute.
Yes, sir.
Hello everyone, this is Suresh. Because it is a regional Scrum gathering and a very, very useful conference for a lot of practitioners like all of us. I have been going to gatherings for the last 10 years, and trust me, they are very, 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 very useful events. A lot of real practitioners like Snehamayi is going to be there, speaking about their real experiences. Some book authors, trainers, coaches, leaders, product managers, agile coaches, scrum masters, many such practitioners would join. I've been to several gatherings across the globe, and they're very, very generally very expensive, of the order of about $500 US, $1,000 US, or even more at times. But nowadays, we are in this COVID, and a lot of gatherings are still not there up physically yet. So this is going to be an online conference, and this is going to be like less than $10. I think this is one of the best values for money that you can invest in your own personal development journey. This is a Scrum Alliance title sponsoring conference. This is not a commercial event. This is just a community event. But because there are speakers, and we have 2 keynote speakers coming from different industries. Obviously, there are some expenses with the platform and the speaker, so that is why it is charged a little bit. It's not like a Premier Wednesday event, which is we could offer it for free, but this is something I would say very, very low expense and very, very high value for the money and the time that you invest. This is in the evening timings on July 8th and 9th. So measuring this could fit our schedule for a lot of us on that Friday evening and a Saturday evening India time, which means Friday morning and a Saturday morning USA time. So you will meet some fantastic people. The names that you normally see in books, you will probably get to meet them. If you're aspiring to become an agile coach or a scrum master or a trainer or anything for that matter, you can get some free mentoring sessions, Q&A, one-on-one conversations, a lot of networking as well. So my suggestion is there's nothing you're losing, just that if at all, you'll gain a huge amount of knowledge and a lot of exposure is there. This will also help you gain your SEUs for your Scrum certifications as well. So my suggestion is just give a try once. Yeah. Thank you, Madhu.
Thank you, sir. And also, I would like to thank Snehamayi for the wonderful session. Hope everybody starts writing a contract right away. So thank you very much, Snehamayi, for the wonderful session.
Thanks, Premier Wednesday, for allowing me to, join you, talk about this topic. I'm an agile coach at heart, so anything agile I'm really passionate about. So thank you. I enjoyed the time.
Thank you, Snehamayi. So let's conclude. The next Premier Wednesday event is on May 25th, and we have Mahesh Varadarajan for that session, which is an introduction to SAFe, and he is a SPC and also in the IT industry for past 15 plus years. And we are inviting Mahesh for that upcoming session. And also you can give us a video testimonial on the feedback and earn a gift voucher. So it will really help us a lot. Thank you very much once again, everybody. Stay tuned to www.PremierAgile.com, or you can write us to info@PremierAgile.com, or you can reach us to our learning advisors with the hotline numbers on the screen. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.